and seen the devastation caused by the trade policies of Bill and Hillary Clinton. And it's total devastation. All over New York, all over Pennsylvania, all over New England, all over the country. Hillary Clinton supported Bill Clinton's disastrous and totally disastrous NAFTA.
Donald Trump on the stump last month, expressing during an address on economics his disdain for the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA for short, and the adverse impact it's had on prominent states such as New York and Pennsylvania. His message is resonating with a whole lot of folks in those two, well, over the past few elections, they have been blue states. And the New York Post reports today Democrats are being warned not to underestimate Trump. In fact, some strategists say it is now fully possible that Trump will win. So our question in this portion of our program is this: will he win the states of New York and Pennsylvania? Let's talk to two gentlemen who ought to know. Via telephone, my old pal from the U.S. House of Representatives, Congressman Peter King of New York. Pete used to be the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. He serves on the Intelligence Committee. And joining us via Skype from Allentown, Pennsylvania, a gentleman who is heard on WHP Harrisburg weekdays and then on WPHT Philadelphia on weekends, my good friend Ken Matthews. For purposes of full disclosure, Brother Matthews and I are both proud Wolfpackers. We both went to school at NC State. Gentlemen, good news for Donald Trump today. In the latest CNN ORC poll, it shows Mr. Trump with a 5-point lead over Hillary Clinton. Peter King, since you represent the district out on Long Island, is Long Island going to be Trump country this November?
You know, I really think it is. And I would have said that with some hesitation a month ago. I can tell you, for instance, in my district, in the district next to mine, probably 3 of the 4 districts on Long Island, Barack Obama carried them. He carried mine the last 2 times. He carried Kathleen Rice's district, which is the 3rd district right next to mine, and he would have carried Steve Israel's district. And he carried them by 4 or 5 points. I have seen polling on Long Island and virtually each of the districts showing right now Donald Trump winning by 5, 6 points. He has pretty solid leads, too. And it's interesting because he has high unfavorables. She is high unfavorables, but hers are much more intense. You have favorables toward Donald Trump or because people think maybe he talks too much or he's offended some people. But the ones involving Hillary Clinton go right to the core. They go to whether or not people can trust her, whether or not she's devious. I mean, it's very hardcore. So for her to be losing in these districts, which have been carried by Democrats, in Suffolk County, it's 80% of my district. It's a Democratic county legislature, a Democratic county executive, a Democratic district attorney. And yet Donald Trump is winning that. And now upstate.
Well, it sounds like you got it set up there. Let me turn to my friend in the Keystone State, Ken Matthews. They call your business talk radio, but you do a lot of listening. You hear from the guys in the state capitol weekdays, and then you go to Philly, where the Dems are holding their conventions on the weekend. What are your listeners telling you?
What fun it was this weekend. First of all, let me just say hello to Congressman King. It's an honor to be in the same broadcast space with you, sir. I've been a fan for a while.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, it's very interesting because I heard just 6, 7 months ago, I could feel the shift in people questioning Hillary. They weren't sure on Trump, but I think that Trump's going to take Pennsylvania. I don't think it's as much as a swing state as the swing state. And I just want a special thank you to Debbie Wasserman Schultz today for putting Trump's numbers up even farther. Thank you for that.
But let me ask you in all seriousness here. There you are, weekdays in the state capitol. Politics, I imagine, always talked about. The Philadelphia crowd on the weekends, you know, Philly itself, inner city Philadelphia, very curious. Charlie Dent called me one night when I was on WPHT saying, hey, you know, they play fast and loose inside the city. And remember, Romney in some precincts didn't get any votes. Is it going to be better for Trump in Philly, or does he just have to look to that traditional T in the state for most of his votes to carry it?
I think he'll take the T, and I think he's going to persuade people in Philly, because for the first time yesterday, actually, I was at the pregame setup for Philly over by Constitution or Independence Hall in the Constitution Center. A lot of media there. There were 3 protests when I was there. Some guy was dressed as a bear. Against global warming, and I'm sure he was an adult. And but I talked to a lot of people. And at the protest, I was just kind of low-key and just asking people. I ran into a very nice young woman who was selling a shirt with a face of Donald Trump and Hillary morphed together. And it said, bad versus worse, or something like that. And I said, well, are you here for the Hillary thing? She said, you know, I'm not really set on Hillary. I'm a Democrat, but she's not really doing it for me. I ran into another mother-daughter team, and the mother was covered with Hillary stuff. And I just like to ask people, bottom line, and the girl said she was there because her mother has been a Democrat, and her mother dragged her there. And I said, well, are you going to vote for Hillary? And she says, I don't know. Trump's not looking that bad.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it sounds like you got it set up there. Yeah. Let me turn back to Peter King for a second, because, Pete, one thing about you New Yorkers, you're very vociferous. You let people know where you stand. And I can imagine your town halls from time to time can be a bit raucous. But in New York, you are hearing similar stories to what we're hearing from Ken down in Philadelphia and throughout Pennsylvania?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, this is coming from, not just hardcore Republicans. Because, we're going to lose a few Republicans, quite frankly. There's been a division in the party. But we're going to pick up, I believe, a lot of moderate to conservative Democrats. We're going to pick up independents. We're going to pick up a lot of what we used to call Reagan Democrats. And upstate vote is very disenchanted with Democrats. And in New York City, even though it's gone the de Blasio way in the last election, people have seen what happens in that type of leadership. And there is a real growing movement against liberalism, against progressivism. Now, listen, is it going to be easy? No. And if Donald Trump carries New York, he's going to carry the country. But it is very, very much in play. I've seen polls where she is barely over 50% or under 50%. And for her, as a so-called New Yorker, but certainly as someone who represented New York in the U.S. Senate, not to be doing better than that is a real reflection. Trump can do it. Trump is striking a note. And on trade, now, I was, in all full disclosure, I voted for NAFTA. I can defend it, but that's really not the point. Much more should be done for the workers who have lost their jobs. We can argue whether it's technology or trade or whatever. I think they've been taken for granted. These are blue-collar people who are not among a privileged group that people always worry about and talk about and write about. Somehow they're taken for granted. And that's what these people, I believe, resent more than anything. The fact that they're looked down on, they're not considered to be that important to the country. And he has really tapped into that. And they're just fed up with a lot of the phoniness that's at the Washington level with both parties, who have lost touch with the average guy and the average woman in the streets.
Gentlemen, and especially to you, Kenny, since we're both North Carolina state guys, Donald Trump is in North Carolina tonight, in Winston-Salem, home of Wake Forest University. Let's listen to some of Trump's comments from his rally tonight in Winston-Salem.
The mess that's going on right now with the Democrats, if that was happening to us, it would be a worldwide travesty, because they would build it up to a point like you've never seen before. Never seen before.
And, of course, what he's pointing out, Ken, is the double standard the media has and how they will do their best to ignore the disarray for the Democrats. About a minute left to you, sir.
I think it was a 1-2 punch coming off the email investigation with the FBI. I think it was a blessing in disguise that FBI Director Comey was able to give that grocery list of all the things she got away with. And as Congressman King said, the typical worker in New York or Pennsylvania or anywhere could not get away with that. We're just the working folk. And I think that resonated with a lot of people, especially Democrats here in Pennsylvania. And then the icing on the cake was, we've always felt that the Clintons have a tendency to rig things. And it turns out that they rigged the deck against Bernie Sanders, and now there's proof in email. I think both things put the wind at Donald's back as an outsider.
And Pete King, let me just ask you one thing very quickly, because we know on the Intelligence Committee we're looking at a lot of things happening worldwide. Another attack in Germany, a knife attack tonight in Tokyo, not believed to be connected to terror. But Pete King, with 30 seconds, how concerned are you about yet another major attack on our shores between now and the election?
Well, we have to be concerned. Certainly, attacks like we've seen in Orlando and San Bernardino and Nice, those are the type of attacks we can expect. And also, JD, let me just mention, we can't forget, these cops are being mowed down on the streets, and Hillary Clinton, she's going to have Michael Brown's mother speaking at the convention tomorrow. Now, he's a guy who tried to kill a cop. What she should be doing is having the police officer on there, Officer Wilson from Ferguson, who did the right thing by shooting at Michael Brown and doing his job, upholding his oath of office. She wants to stand with people who try to kill cops. The American people are fed up with that.
All right, Congressman Peter King from New York and my good friend Ken Matthews from Pennsylvania. Gentlemen, we thank you both. You heard Pete mention that some Republicans are not with Trump. You'll hear from one of them when we come back.